only thing we have to fear is
in war,
fear itself.
there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we've earned, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Rick Green. I'm here with David Barton. David, we talk about the intersection of faith and politics in an area, an issue that comes up a lot, not just on our program, but anyone that's involved in the culture, is the life issue. And when we say one is pro-life or we talk about the pro-life movement, that covers a whole lot more than just, quote-unquote outlawing abortion. I mean, there are so many areas to get involved with here in terms of legislation, in terms of the courts, in terms of saving lives, folks that go out to these clinics. Man, we got a lot of different areas where we've seen victories over the last few years, and today we're going to get to talk about one that's a little bit unusual, one maybe people aren't even aware of.
Yeah, it is a great victory, but you made a point there that's pretty significant. Is when we talk about abortion, folks think of politics. They think of the laws passed in the legislature and the fights we have with abortion in Congress, et cetera. And there are so many people involved in the abortion issue on the pro-life side, particularly, that don't even know what politics are, quite frankly. A lot of people who work in the crisis pregnancy centers, which is an alternative to the abortion clinics, so many of them don't even vote in elections. I mean, they don't keep up with that. They're just there. They want to minister to folks and help bring babies in the world and make sure they're not aborted. And so we've talked to some of our friends in the anti-abortion industry, and they talk about how that there's, nearly 10,000 crisis pregnancy centers, and so many of them just don't even have a clue what legislation is. They're just dealing with needs on the ground. So it really is kind of a stereotypical thing that if you're anti-abortion, you're a political activist of some kind, and that's really not true. And one of the areas where you see a lot of abortion focus is on people who gather around abortion clinics to pray, often get arrested. They gather around abortion clinics to talk to those who are trying to go into abortion clinics, saying, hey, there's some alternatives. If you didn't know about these alternatives, let us tell you. And so over the years, what's happened is lower courts have held that cities and states can create buffer zones into abortion clinics. That even though the public sidewalk leads right up to the door of an abortion clinic, you can require pro-life people to stay 35 feet away from that door, which requires you to be on the other side of the street. So these, if you will, regulations protecting abortion clinics have said that, well, if you want to counsel people going to the abortion clinics, you can do it from the other side of the street. Well, one of the folks involved in that
Wait, David, before you talk about it, I got to say, don't you think what does that say about that side of this culture war when babies are being saved, lives are being saved, and they're essentially saying, hey, if you want to save lives, we don't want you that close to us. We want you across the street. I mean, it's one of the most effective things that happens in the pro-life movement, and they've actually gone and gotten laws passed to keep these, frankly, sweet people from being able to minister and save lives.
Well, but see, the thing is, it's such a fair policy because when you look at logging companies, you know that they require the environmentalists to be on the other side of the street when they protest logging companies.
Right,
and you're quite aware that homosexual activists in the Great Pride Parade, you have to be on the other side of the street when you have people who are demonstrating for traditional marriage. And so it is such a fair policy.
It's very content neutral.
Exactly.
It applies to everybody the same is what you're saying.
The courts are really good at all right, facetious time over.
Yeah.
But that is ridiculous that you require free speech to be happening on the other side of the street if you don't like what the free speech is. And so in this particular case, you had one of these sidewalk counselors who tried to talk to the people going in the clinic that actually took this to the U.S. Supreme Court. And so the U.S. Supreme Court struck this down. Now, what's significant is when you look at the U.S. Supreme Court on abortion, it is a very, very, very divided court. I mean, when you look at pro-life justices, there's 4.5. When you look at pro-abortion justices, there's 4.5. And so this is the kind of thing where you just really don't know where this is going to go on the abortion issue. And so, you think of how this ruling came down, and you've got your hardcore abortion judges like Ginsburg and Breyer and Sotomayor and Kagan and et cetera. And yet this decision came out to be a 9-0 decision. The unanimous decision of the U.S. Supreme Court saying you can't have a buffer zone around an abortion clinic. You can't require pro-life people to be on the other side of the street when this is going on. So this is a remarkable victory. It is a slap at the Obama administration big time because they're the ones arguing for this in the court. They represented the Obama administration that we have to keep these zones, etc. And even the two Obama appointees, as liberal as they are and as pro-abortion as they are, did not agree with that. So that in itself is a remarkable victory. So the lady we have today is actually the lady who filed suit on this at the Supreme Court. She's the plaintiff in this case. She's out of Massachusetts, of all places, and took this thing all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and won. And so this really is a remarkable victory. And despite what the media has made with this victory, it's not a conservative victory because you had all the liberal justices on board with this thing as well.
And the cool thing here, too, David, a lot of times we think of the people that really make a difference or strike a blow for the kingdom or really win the big victories are the ones we see on TV or the ones with all the experience or the names or the big organizations. I love the fact that here we have this great victory, and it's just this sweet lady there in Massachusetts that's been going to these pro-life clinics and saving lives that was willing to say, hey, I'm not going to let them push me over here to the side of the street. I'm willing to take this on. And because she did, it's a great victory, not just for her, but for people all across the country. It's a great story, folks. You're really going to enjoy it. Eleanor McCullen with us when we return right here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. The key to a self-governing nation is self-governing people, and the key to personal self-government is to live by the standards in God's Word. If someone cannot control himself by those standards, then our Constitution certainly will be unable to restrain him. Understanding this, John Adams declared, "We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Greed, ambition, revenge, or seduction would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." John Adams believed that successful government rested not upon our great Constitution, but rather upon moral and religious people.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thanks for staying with us. Our guest today just won a case at the U.S. Supreme Court that could have an impact on you and your freedom of speech, especially if you're pro-life and you like to go out there and pray, as many of us do, and join in things like 40 Days for Life or Bound for Life and other great organizations. Eleanor McCullen is with us. Ms. McCullen, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure to speak with you and to everyone else across the country that's listening.
Well, I absolutely loved the headline that I saw that said, 77-year-old grandma got the Supreme Court to uphold pro-life free speech. First of all, let me ask you, what gave you the guts to take on this fight?
Well, I guess, we work under the mantle of grace, and so that's the beginning of it. Somehow it didn't seem right that we were impeded from our message of life, our message of hope and love and help, and 35 feet is quite a distance to the point where if you're speaking to someone, your voice is getting louder and you're losing your momentum, because the best way actually to talk to someone about something this serious is one-on-one. Good morning. Can I help you? Here is a brochure. We have a safe center. Can we talk for a couple minutes? That's much nicer one-on-one. I'm a grandmother, as you said, and so I have to build up trust, and by the grace of God, I do build up trust pretty quickly because I care for the woman and I care for the man, the mother-to-be and the father-to-be, and somehow my personality and my compassionate heart comes through in about 2 or 3 minutes, because that's about all the time you have. So to take away that buffer zone now gives me a great opportunity not to, I don't like to miss a couple, because a mother-to-be, they're expecting a baby, and the father, they're about to go in and destroy their child. So in just a few minutes, I just say, I care about you. I really care. Let us talk. The most important thing, Rick, is to care about the woman and the man. Don't forget the father here.
Yeah.
Fathers are often forgotten, but those are my most important reasons for being there. She comes along. She's frightened. She's scared. She feels abandoned. What am I going to do? What are we going to do? We're pregnant. What are we going to do? Nobody cares about us being here. My father told me not to come home if I didn't have the abortion. My roommate said the same thing, and here I am. But now I've met Eleanor, and I represent hundreds across the country of beautiful, gentle, caring counselors. But I'll speak for myself. But I represent them, and so here I am. I say, good morning, I care. Sometimes all I have to say is good morning, and just my voice, and somebody cares that here they are about to go in and destroy the life of their child, basically, is what's happening. So I try to give out a caring feeling. Of course, I'm there for the baby, the unborn. I'm the voice of the unborn child, but my first primary interest is the mother-to-be and the father. Then, of course, if I get them to stop, I'll say, how are you pregnant and how far along? And then I have my picture of, if they say 12 weeks, I show them a picture of a 12-week-old fetus. I say we could go to a safe center. There's all kinds of resources. People just see me and a couple of others, and they think, well, what can they do? But we work under the Archdiocese of Boston. We have a lot of resources. We do housing and medical. I do baby showers. We do a lot to surround them with love. That's what I'm trying to achieve in a short period of time, that our group will surround you with love and caring, and you can do this.
Wow.
Even though it's a challenge. I always say, yeah, it's a challenge, but you can do it, and we will help you.
And you may be the first voice that they've heard say that. You may be the first one that's told them that they can do this.
You know what? You're probably right. I never thought of it that way. But yes, because you're right, because they're the byproduct, unfortunately, of our society and our culture. Our secular culture is we want what we want, and we want it yesterday. And if we don't want this baby or can't handle it, then we know what to do. We'll just go right in. It's legal. We'll go right into Planned Parenthood. So, yeah, I bet you're right that society would say, gosh, you're a senior in college? Of course, you want to finish school. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yes, and you find yourself pregnant? Well, I say, listen, we'll do it together. You walk across that stage, you'll get your diploma, and you'll have your little boy, and you will rise to the responsibility. It builds character. We're so easy now, Rick. Everything, if it's too hard for us or it's too inconvenient, we can't handle it anymore. I don't know what happened along the way, but we all want the easy way out.
Too true in so many different areas of the culture. Got to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Our guest today is Eleanor McCullen. She just won a case at the Supreme Court to get rid of those buffer zones, free speech buffer zones, supposedly, that actually infringe upon your free speech and your constitutional rights. And it's a big, big victory for pro-lifers across the country. Stay with us right here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Joseph Story is one of the most important names in American jurisprudence. Not only was he placed on the U.S. Supreme Court by President James Madison, but he also founded Harvard Law School and authored numerous legal works on the Constitution. While today's revisionists claim that the goal of the First Amendment was absolute religious pluralism, Justice Joseph Story vehemently disagreed. He declared, "The real object of the First Amendment was not to encourage, much less to advance Mohammedanism or Judaism or infidelity by prostrating Christianity, but was to exclude all rivalry among Christian denominations." According to founder Joseph Story, Christianity, not pluralism, was the goal of the Founding Fathers in the First Amendment, for only a Christian nation is tolerant and thus is truly pluralistic.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Our guest today, Eleanor McCullen. And Ms. McCullen, we were talking about the case that you won before the Supreme Court, and just talking about some of the things that come up when you're out there talking to folks in front of these abortion clinics. And I love the attitude that you expressed in our first segment, just the fact that you're there to love them and to show them mercy and to look for ways to help them to see that this is a life and it's a life that needs to be saved.
The interesting part of abortion, and sometimes we use the word, we say abortion, but I'm always going to define that bad abortion, which means taking a living fetus, a little human being, future human being, out of the womb. The problem with that is your life doesn't go back to normal. You think, okay, this is it. I can handle this. I will finish school and I won't have this baby. But it doesn't work that way, especially with women. But men suffer too, because women are nurturers, and they know when they go in and remove that child, that fetus, that they've done something. It's a hole in their heart, and it's there forever. It never leaves. It may feel good the first week, the first month, the first year. Well, I'm working with a woman now. She had an abortion 3 years ago, and she thought she was fine until she went into the supermarket and she saw like a little 2.5 or 3-year-old little boy in a stroller, and just the waves, an ocean of grief just fell over her. And we're helping her, of course. I mean, we're helping her with all kinds of things. We know that she's remorseful. We want her to go on with her life. God wants her to proceed. So there's help. We're doing a Bible study with her to help her, and that there's always that available for anyone who's listening that's had an abortion. There's so many groups that are healing groups, healing ministries for people who have gone ahead and had the abortion. But people think, okay, we'll just run in and get this over with. But you say, I'm the little voice that says, wait a second, don't rush in. Just wait. Can you just talk to me for 5 minutes? Because last week, it was last Tuesday, the woman went in and she said, no, I don't want anything. She was rather abrupt. And I said, okay, well, I'm here if you change your mind. Well, she went in, and 3 hours later she came out and came right over to me, and she put her head on my shoulder. It was heartbreaking. She was sobbing, and she said, I can't believe I did it. So all I'm there is just wait. You don't have to rush in. There's no rush on any of this. This is a life-changing decision. And so we're there just to offer hope, help, and love.
And I can see where
if they say no, well, that's their choice also.
Yeah, and I can see where if you're, like you said earlier, if you're 35 feet away, it's almost like you're yelling at them rather than just being able to talk to them one-on-one. That does make a big difference.
It's a huge difference. And then you have to remember, too, we could put this in the abortion category, but the most important thing that I think was achieved was the First Amendment right. Forget what I'm doing with that, but we should in America, as you know, our rights are just taken away, and we're just saying, oh, what's happening? But you have to stand up for something. It may be a little thing, but little things mean a lot, because all of a sudden when you let a little, whatever it is, whatever anybody's working with, if they compromise a little bit, they say, well, I guess that's okay. Well, then I guess that's okay. And then all of a sudden, you know how all of a sudden you wake up and you say, well, what happened? What happened to America? What happened to our First Amendment rights, which is freedom of speech, freedom of gentle, loving, educational speech in the country of America, wherever I would like to be. So to be honest, the first part, when it was a 9-0 decision, it was exciting because it was like it restored my faith in America.
Wow.
I thought, oh, good, the justices were coming back. We're coming back on the track of America, the America that we used to know. And then, of course, the Hobby Lobby decision added to that. So it restored my hope and faith in America.
Well,
that we're going to
you
stand.
restore my hope and faith in America. I'm telling you, you just have you're so exciting to talk to and listen to. I can see why you're so effective with moms and dads that are coming in there. But I share your optimism. These are some very, very good decisions that we're getting. And if it wasn't for you being willing to go to the Supreme Court, then, I mean, just think over the next few years, the lives that will be saved as a result of you being willing to take this battle to the Supreme Court, because there are, like you said, hundreds and hundreds of people just like you that do this, that this will make them more effective in those 15 states that are dealing with it, that have these
That's
buffers.
right. It's going again across the country. And one of the judges in Massachusetts, when they voted to keep the 35-foot zone, he said, well, Eleanor seems to be doing well as it is, as she seems to be rescuing enough babies, so why is she complaining? The point is, one couple missed. One is one too many. One missed that I couldn't talk to is very frustrating for me. So he had the wrong idea. It had nothing to do with whether I'm able to save one child or 100. It has the idea of, right, like you say, speaking to whomever I would like to speak to. So the other thing I'd like, just a little bit about the unborn child. We're the voice of the unborn child.
Yes.
The Pope has said, help the poor, poorest. But we have to remember the poorest of the poor is the child in the womb, the most fragile, the most marginalized.
Yes.
There's no voice. Every little child, they don't need filet mignon on the table. They need love. And they want to be born. Every child wants a birthday. So we're first for the mother and the father. I'm there for them first because they're in a dilemma. They're in a scary part of their life. So I'm there to help them. Then, of course, we're the voice of the unborn child.
Our guest is Eleanor McCullen. She just won a case before the Supreme Court. They got rid of the buffer zones whenever pro-life advocates are out there just wanting to minister to folks that are considering an abortion or actually going in to get an abortion. Many lives are saved as a result of their good work in the ministry that they do. So this is a big, big case, and we're thrilled to have Eleanor with us. We're out of time for our interview portion today. We're going to have David Barton with us when we come back from the break, and then we're going to pick up tomorrow with Miss McCullen. I'm telling you, this is one of the coolest interviews I've ever had the privilege of doing. She's so encouraging and so excited about what's happening, and just a wonderful, wonderful person, the impact that she's having out there, and it's going to be an encouragement to you. So don't miss tomorrow as well. When we come back, we'll get David Barton's thoughts on it. Stay with us here on WallBuilders Live. Have you ever wanted to learn more about the United States Constitution but just felt like, man, the classes are boring, or it's just that old language from 200 years ago, or I don't know where to start? People want to know, but it gets frustrating because you don't know where to look for truth about the Constitution either. Well, we've got a special program for you available now called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green, and it's actually a teaching done on the Constitution at Independence Hall in the very room where the Constitution was framed. We take you both to Philadelphia, the Cradle of Liberty and Independence Hall, and to the WallBuilders Library, where David Barton brings the history to life to teach the original intent of our founding fathers. We call it the Quick Start Guide to the Constitution because in just a few hours through these videos, you will learn the Citizen's Guide to America's Constitution. You'll learn what you need to do to help save our constitutional republic. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it's going to inspire you to do your part to preserve freedom for future generations. It's called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green. You can find out more information on our website now at wallbuilders.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. We're back with David Barton now. David, I know you had to enjoy that. I enjoyed it so much. We're going to have her back tomorrow. We couldn't get enough of it today. You usually don't expect that from somebody that's not a media person doing interviews all the time. She was fantastic.
Oh, she was great, and she is passionate, and I love what she did. And I'll tell you what, several things she said set me off. That when they were in the Massachusetts court, and the judge there said, well, you've already saved a bunch of lives. You ought to be really happy with what you've saved. You don't need to save more.
Oh, man.
That's a typical judge. Well, you saved two children this week, and 140 others were aborted, so be happy with the two you've saved. Thank you for the government for thinking for us. Thank you, government, for telling us what our success is and defining our success as, which is just nuts. But she didn't stop there at the state court. She went all the way to the Supreme Court with this. But I love what she was saying. I was trying to envision how she did this. She's talking, and I love the fact she was talking not just about helping save these kids that are about to be aborted, but that she has this huge concern, as you heard, for the father as well.
Yes.
And I thought, that I haven't heard many pro-life people talk about the father in this and the love for the father. And so she got this love for the father and for the child and for the mother. And I love what she said. You have to try to surround them with love in a short period of time. And do you realize how difficult that is to do when you're on the other side of the street trying to talk to these people? I mean, her objective is great. Surround them with love. And so it really is what she has done and what she tries to do and what she's been able to be effective doing. And I have to say, for that Massachusetts judge to talk about how effective she is, that's on the other side of the street. So think what it is now that she's able to do what anybody else can do, and that is be on the sidewalk outside of business talking to those who go in or out. So she's going to be a ball of fire on this now that she's able to cross the street and actually be with people and talk to them and love them and try to surround them with love in a short period of time.
Yeah, it's the pro-abortion industry's worst nightmare. A sweet 77-year-old grandmother that loves people and is incredibly effective. She knows how to communicate. She knows she's strategic. It's just really cool. In fact, it's so cool. We're going to have her back again tomorrow. Don't miss it tomorrow. We'll have Eleanor McCullen back here on WallBuilders Live. Thank you for listening to WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green.
We stand undivided.